We are entering the second month of the SEC season. I think we've learned a little bit, and last week was a great week in college football, but I kind of think this week, will indicate more about what the SEC is doing both in the East and West. I'm Dayne Young. Brent Rollins from Pro Football Focus is here, and the Hall of Fame head coach, Jim Donnan. We're presented by Breda Pest Management and Connor Grading and Landscaping. We'll tell you more about those. Coach, overall, what have we learned from, let's start with you, maybe some SEC West. What have you learned from the West so far in the first month of the season?
Definitely up in the air. I mean, you just don't have anybody that just got that wow factor. I think what we've seen is some really good play and some really bad play, and a little bit mixed in between. But as you mentioned, this next month's going to really kind of separate the pack, so to speak, with all these interconference games where the West's playing the West. So I feel like, though, that Alabama certainly established itself with a big win last week. They needed to at home, really came through in the second half, and LSU got by the skin of their chinny chin with that win over Arkansas. So we're going to see some really big battles this week, and I'm sure my man is going to have some really good, interesting insight there with Brent giving us all the little tidbits about all these teams.
Well, Brent, overall first month SEC East.
The gap's not maybe as large as you would have thought going into the season. And I think that's really the totality of the conference. I think Alabama and Georgia are obviously, and potentially even LSU, but Alabama and Georgia, talent-wise, are still head and shoulders above us. But football-wise, that gap and whatnot, I just don't think that gap is as large as we've seen over the past few years. And in the SECs, there's three teams, I think, that legit, maybe even four, but likely three, that could pose be a true challenger. One, I think, is a sneaky Missouri. Two, Florida, Kentucky, who stands up this week and says, "Hey, I'm number two. I'm the lead challenger to Georgia in the East."
I had a different game as game of the week selected, but I'm going to stick with this because you segued to it. So Kentucky is a 1-point favorite at home, Brent. That's a noon kickoff Eastern time. So it could be a little bit sleepy up there in Kentucky. What do you see in this game, Gators and Wildcats?
I don't know. Stoops said fans are going to drink some beers early and be ready to go. But I think the first team to 20 wins. I think both of these teams kind of play now a very similar style. And I actually think that Mertz fits what Billy Napier wants to do perfectly. You look at his 2 years at Wisconsin, first 2 years at Wisconsin, he had 21 picks. He only has one this year, only 2 turnover-worthy plays. His adjusted completion percentage, which factors in like drops and throwaways, is 88%. What does that lead to? Because there's not a lot of big plays and only a lot of points. Florida is number 1 in the SEC and number 6 in the FBS in time of possession. And both of these teams kind of want to play that style. So I think, both are good defensively. I think Florida's going to be a little bit better defensively. Can Kentucky's receivers actually make some plays? They had some key drops. That's what I think I'm most interested to see because the talent is there, but Key and Brown, I think, have 5 or 6 combined drops already.
Yeah, when you look at Mertz, and everybody talked about all these transfers, you got to give him the transfer of the year quarterback for the SEC. I mean, he's styling as far as what he's been able to do for his team, not necessarily stats, but he really has played within the system. The one thing that worries me about Florida matchup-wise, Kentucky is stronger than Ajax against the run and plays the pass okay. But, we haven't seen a pass or a run very far all year by Florida. They're the worst team in the conference for plays over 30 yards. So, you're not going to just consistently bang on these Kentucky Wildcats, although Kentucky certainly hasn't been played the caliber competition like Utah. But I think the matchup there on the road, the fact that Kentucky's won 3 of the last 5 favor them a little bit. And the points you brought up about the receivers, they can get open. Can they catch it? And can the guy Leary, can he hit them? I mean, they've missed so many. And they continue to have lost yardage play. So this will be a case of which team can avoid the big mistake as far as playing in a game like this, and can some of their strengths stand out. We'll see how all plays out. But you got to give a little edge to Kentucky just because of what they can do defensively compared to what Florida does offensively.
A good little 2-hour game. Is that what we're thinking? Just a nice, tidy move the clock?
That might be the quickest of the season. I think you're right. That's a great point.
Both teams play that way. Both teams want to play that way.
Well, what can happen is if it's a 2-hour game, they can drink beer before and then really hit the hard liquor afterwards.
In abundance up in Kentucky, for sure.
Yes.
Speaking of alcohol in abundance, Coach, LSU and Ole Miss. Ole Miss didn't really show up in the second half, especially against Alabama. And as you mentioned, LSU having to find a way to beat Arkansas. They did that. Tigers 3-1, Rebels 3-1. The Tigers are a 2.5-point favorite on the road.
Yeah, when you think of Ole Miss, you think of big plays. You think of just wide open offense. Junkins had a run over 15 yards. They don't complete any deep balls. Their offense really struggled. I mean, 10 points total. You're not going to win a game against a team like Alabama without scoring some points, particularly when you're not making any big plays. I mean, Alabama's set up to cause lost yardage plays, and that's what happened in this game. But as far as the game itself, I just think hopefully I hear Pittman talk about can they get the Rocket Sanders back? That's got to help them. And excuse me, I'm on the wrong game here. I'm thinking about what happened with LSU. LSU very fortunate. I mean, seriously, very fortunate to get that win. I watched it to try to get ready for this game, and Arkansas had guys with blinker lights on. I mean, so many guys open, but they couldn't protect good enough. And that's going to be the big case here. Can you get the protection for them and see what happens?
I think that first game with Ole Miss of just the receivers getting open, Brent, and LSU can be got in the secondary. Like their secondary is not this classic LSU athletes everywhere.
Defense in general.
Right.
LSU's defense in general. They have 0 players with a PFF grade 80 or above. Them, Arkansas, and South Carolina, the only 3 in the conference that sort of have that metric. But daggone Ole Miss. Let me read you a list of names here. That'd be Jim Harbaugh, Kyle Whittingham at Utah, Sark at Texas, Norvell at Florida State, Dan Lanning at Oregon, Caleb DeBoer at Washington. All those guys make significantly less, if not significantly less money than Lane Daggone Kiffin, and they sleptwalk through that game. Like just absolutely the first drive, come out, boom, play action, pushing the ball down the field, 7, I think it was 7-3 there. They went ahead, scored on the first drive. And then literally it's like they played the rest of the game like they were up 14 points. I'm looking at the team like, why are you not attacking? Why are you not attacking? Why are you going side to side? It was just, that was one of the most frustrating, and where you just think, all right, are you as a team taking on the personality of your head coach where you're just kind of cool with things versus legit into details and all that stuff? It was very frustrating watching Ole Miss. Can they rebound? Can they get sort of refocused? I don't know, because I think LSU is going to consistently make plays. I mean, they scored instantly in a bunch of situations, but I just want to see something from Ole Miss where it's like, hey, do you want to be great? Because against Alabama, there was not a want to be great, I think, from them.
Yeah, what's their identity? I mean, they don't have any bread and butter. You would think that they would do something to consistently have something they could rely on, but it's easy to be critical because I don't know what their makeup. They've got a lot of transfers, and sometimes it's hard to mesh together, and they've had some injuries. But let's face it, Alabama's not the team that you should have as much trouble with as they did with all the weapons that they have. And certainly we were bragging about Dart's running ability, ran very few predetermined quarterback runs. They ran a couple quarterback sweeps there early and looked good. They felt
QB draw for the touchdown initially.
Forgot about them after that.
Brent, you mentioned LSU's defense and the grades so far. Harold Perkins, they're still trying to figure out how to unlock what he was last season. I think maybe they have him doing too much. Mason Smith up front, he's not right after that ACL recovery. He's still trying to figure that out. But I say all this to say there is one local tie for here that Whit Weeks, linebacker, now playing for them, really good start to his career at LSU.
Yeah.
And if that's an indicator for where this defense can grow and learn, like that was a surprise to me. I thought it may take him a little while to ingratiate into college football. He's from Oconee County, from Watkinsville. Did a really good job, I thought, against Arkansas.
Yep.
I'm going to stick with you, Brent. Georgia and Auburn, 3:30. Georgia's 14.5 point favorite is where the line sits right now.
Three things for me with this game. One is, can Auburn survive with the QBs running the football? Because, like, if you combine the quarterback attempts for Auburn, they would be Georgia's leading rusher in terms of numbers of attempts. So it's a very QB run game heavy offense thus far for them. Passing has just not been what they could do. Can they get to double digits in terms of points? Two is, I do think Auburn defensively, the secondary is the strength of their team. And I could see them, whereas a lot of these early opponents for Georgia said, hey, we're going to load up to stop the run, thus you have to play action pass and push the ball down the field. I can see Auburn saying, hey, we're going to cover, and you can run the ball. And if you run the ball, that's fine. We'll force you into field goals in the red zone and shorten the game. But three, and most importantly for me, and this is more of a conversation, Coach, I was curious to get your take on. Carson Beck, to me, has played very well, very efficient, very accurate with with what he's doing, not putting the ball in harm's way, things like that. I think now it's time where, granted, maybe first road start, you don't necessarily go full into this and turn the 180, but I want to see him make more plays, like where there's a little bit of a slight risk involved. Like, Dayne, we brought up in Film Don't Lie, play with a third down play where, hey, Bowers is one-on-one. There's no one else around. Just go take that chance. Go make that play. Go, something's happening in the pocket. Move your feet, slide, go make plays, not just sort of what's there all the time. So I'm ready to start seeing that from him. But the biggest thing for me is Auburn's going to struggle to score points in this game.
Yeah, I mean, when you get 200 yards in a game and 56 yards passing, you're not going to win. I mean, that's how many yards they got against A&M. And, Kirby talks about Auburn running the ball with Hunter. I mean, you got to do something to help these quarterbacks where they're just not a target back there with the pass rush, particularly if you get behind the sticks and we can run and all that. But as far as Beck, I think he's doing what he's coached to do. I think they're being real careful because they know these teams we're playing that it's hard to for them to do much. If we turn the ball over, it's their only shot. So, play the percentages, eat it up or throw it away. So, but we might see some more maybe a few more risks, but I think we're going to see a lot of the same. And they run a lot of different looks on defense now. They'll give you one look and play another on the other side and try to confuse him. So we got to get a good running game going, that's for sure.
Coach, one point with that you're talking about. So you look at Power 5 quarterbacks, there's 40 that have at least like 120 dropbacks. And there's only 4 who have one turnover-worthy play. Quinn Ewers at Texas, Drew Aller at Penn State, Bo Nix at Oregon, and Carson Beck. Those teams are undefeated. Like, you take care of the football,
right?
Your talent wins out, and I think that's there. But it's just for me, it's the little things where it's like, hey, the calculated risk, the slight sort of push to, hey, let's hold on the ball just a little bit longer, make this throw down the field, kind of those things that I'm ready to start seeing from him.
Don't think you're going to see it. I just don't think. I don't think they're going to change what they're doing. They got a defensive-minded head coach. They play avoidance of turnovers, and I've always felt like if you're going to throw the football, you're going to tolerate some interceptions. I mean, Brett Favre led the NFL in touchdowns, but also interceptions. You got to throw it in a tight window once in a while, and he's thrown a couple of those. But I just think we're such a high percentage team right now that we're going to stick with it until we really get behind. And we have been once, and we came out and challenged after that.
It's not quite Jaden Daniels at LSU last year where Brian Kelly is saying, throw the effing ball. It's not that because he's throwing it around.
Oh, yeah.
But I know what you're saying, Brent. Like, go for a little more risk in the game.
Right. That's what, unless you can go over there and coach quarterbacks for a week, I don't think you're going to see much change there.
No, I don't. And it's more like just the taking plays that I want to see them make him or him be the reason the play works in terms of stuff is breaking down around him. Move around, make plays with the legs, make throws. We just haven't seen that just yet, just a few times that we've seen it. So I just want to see more of it. That's all, because I think it's there. That's just me sort of wanting it as a fan of watching quarterback play.
I think opponents.
That's just not his style, though. That's not his makeup. He's not a real athletic quarterback. I mean, it's going to do the things that you were talking about. He's done within the framework what his ability is. He's done okay moving around, but if it's an obvious take the run, he can do that. But he's a guy that's going to drop back, play, and we're much better play action than we are drop back. Most teams are. So, but we got enough of Georgia. Georgia should win this game and keep on running and make it 39 out of 40. Pretty dang good.
Very.
Well, not a lot of changes needed at Georgia, but this is the perfect time to make changes to your backyard setup, your home tailgate, whatever you have going on, because I just did what I think is my second to last grass cutting of the season. I think I have one
Close.
more time.
Yeah,
we're
I agree.
getting
Just
there.
one more.
We're all looking around being like, when can I put it up for the year? And that's the perfect time to get your pavers put in to see what can make your backyard experience even better. You want a putting green in the backyard? The folks at Connor Grading and Landscaping can make that happen. But maybe you just want to get a little rock wall, separation wall. You need some earth moved. Just all the features you could want to make your home tailgate even better. Connor Grading and Landscaping. Just give them a call. And I like going to their website, checking out the gallery of the recent work, and maybe that'll inspire you with some ideas for what could work over at your house. That's connorgrading.com. Tell them you learned about them from around the league at ugasports.com. All right, Coach. I was saving this one for you because we have a quarterback change now at Texas A&M permanently based on news that broke today. So Connor Wegman's out for the season. I guess maybe a bowl game potentially, but at this point we're looking at Max Johnson in there for Texas A&M, and the Aggies get Arkansas and Sam Pittman. Aggies a 6.5 point favorite on the road. Tough game, I think, here for Texas A&M.
Well, the game's at Arlington, so it's it's going to be at Jerry World, so that's going to it's a neutral site. But I'm happy for Max. I hate for the kid that he got hurt. You always hate for any guy to go down, but I really like the fact that Max kept his cool and stuck in there and was ready to go. And he's a perfect fit for Petrino offense. I mean, certainly he's not like Jackson that played at Louisville or anything like that. It's going to move up and down the field, but he's very athletic for a big guy. I got to see him play in high school, and he can torch the ball down the field. And how many teams can have a guy that's had that many wins in the SEC be your backup quarterback experience-wise and come in a big game like this one coming up, notwithstanding last week. So their offensive production with the receivers they got, I think is going to be even better because as good as this one kid played, I don't think he's a guy that reads the defense anywhere close to what Max does because of Max's experience. So they'll be able to spread the ball around a little bit more. Can Arkansas, hang with them? I don't know. Arkansas takes way too many chances on defense. They either outhouse or penthouse. They either get you for a loss or you give a big gain. So I think they got to get a lot more consistent.
It's amazing when you think about Sam Pittman now in his 4 years there. It started in 2020. They have 11 losses since 2020 by 7 points or less. Like so many where it's just like you're right there, but you can't get over the hump to sort of win the game. So, playing in the neutral site there. But like you talked about with Max, what's amazing, I didn't realize this until looking. I mean, I've known and followed his career as well, knowing him and knowing his brother. And by the way, that was cool as I'll get out to see that you get into a college football game, you throw your brother's first TD pass. Like that's amazing. Especially I have two boys, so that's even like it was even more amazing to watch that. But looking at Max's numbers in his career, 4 years now, so two at LSU, 2 at A&M, he has 42 touchdowns and 7 picks. Like I don't think anybody would have realized that the sort of magnitude of the numbers that he has. Now, his problem has been fumbling. He has 29 turnover-worthy plays in his career. I think he's got close to 20 fumbles in his career. So as long as he takes care of the football with those athletes, like Coach said, and the receivers, Stewart, Muhammad, all those guys, I think Texas A&M is going to be just fine with him at QB.
I'll tell you who's fine at QB, and that's the South Carolina Gamecocks, Brent, because you look around the country, it's hard to find someone playing as efficient and explosive as Spencer Rattler. I don't know if South Carolina as a whole can match up to this based on the roster. They are 11.5-point underdogs at Tennessee, but I think the Vols are an upset watch, Brent.
I agree. I mean, just because we haven't seen, and there's an element to Tennessee's offense that hasn't really looked right. Now, obviously, when Milton takes a handoff or pulls it and runs 80 yards to the house on the first play of the game, that helps your offense. But what's amazing for Rattler is, and we talked about it over the past, over last year, just the propensity for him to put the ball in harm's way. And ever since they played Tennessee a year ago, like since that game, he's been a completely different QB. Hey, maybe you're in the first round conversation type QB. And Leggett, when you're throwing to that guy, like the nitrous that he put on and the go button that he did on that one catch and went like 70, like that's a great combination for them. They actually got a running game. Kid Anderson, who only had a couple carries against Georgia, 20 carries, 80-something yards, I think, against Mississippi State. So can they hang around? I think they can, because I think, like you said, I think Rattler's playing well enough to, one, take care of the football, but also, two, make really good plays.
Thing about Tennessee that's really surprising to me is the lack of big plays. That's the one thing that you just think about when you talk about Heupel over the years. I mean, they just throw the ball deep and hit all the big plays. You're just not seeing that. I don't know if it's because of coverage or what, but I think they can get some on South Carolina because South Carolina has a hard time playing the ball in the air. And I've been on Rattler ever since he got there, but I'm really amazed at what he's done here the last 4 or 5 games. And certainly you get well against Furman and Mississippi State for sure. Their secondaries get an all-star team between those two, and it'd be hard. But he did it against Georgia first half too, and couldn't handle the heat that they got the second half, their front. But it's a game where it could get out of hand, and they're playing from behind. But if they play them close early and they're really working, I mean, Tennessee is going to be struggling to try to find a way to win because they're not a very confident team right now. Tennessee's defense, though, leading the league in yards given up per play. So, they just don't give up many yards. So, of course, their schedules helped them there. So we're both talking a little bit in circles, but overall, if South Carolina can get off to a good start and not get behind like they have up there before, the last time they played, they were like 27-0 in the first quarter. So if they can hang with them, they got a shot.
You have a shot to keep some pests out of your house, and that's if you use our friends over at Breda Pest Management. They're the official pest management company of the Georgia Bulldogs, so they protect Sanford Stadium, and they can protect your home as well. So let's get Breda Pest Management over at your home. It's a family-owned business. They've been operating since 1975. Atlanta area, North Georgia, BredaPest.com. And, my background went away somewhere in here. Oh, well, we have a different background now at this point. I think Bobby's in here getting prep for Dogs and Hogs, which is totally cool. Coach, Mississippi State found its passing game again, remembering that the team is built around Will Rogers and what he can do. But like you say, the defense really let Mississippi State down against South Carolina. I have to think Jalen Milroe and Alabama look at playing this Mississippi State defense and just salivate over the confidence that this can help grow for the season.
You just look at Mississippi State right now. Where's the wins going to come? I mean, realistically, they got some Burma Road games. I mean, look at some of these teams they're going to play. So I'm sure Brent's got the schedule, but all of a sudden, you're not going to outscore people in the SEC with that defense that they got. I mean, you would have thought the one staple of this team with the new coach, Zach Arnett, being a defensive coordinator, that certainly they're going to have some growing pains on offense with the new system. But their defense, you just look at the way they tried to cover some of these last couple teams and guys going down the field with blinker lights on. I mean, just wide ass open. I mean, I've never seen a team that's usually that well coached under Arnett that just look like they don't know where to line up sometime. And guys running AWOL, aren't they, Brent? Unbelievable.
Very much so. And it doesn't help that your next opponent then is Alabama, which actually kind of semi-found its identity a little bit. I would love to know sort of the behind-the-scenes conversations that said, hey, we're not going to play Jalen Milroe at all against South Florida, and then we're going to play him in maybe the biggest game outside of Texas that we play in LSU. But here's the key. They found that's who they are, is we're going to run and we're going to hit a few deep balls because the kid can throw the deep ball. Like Milroe can straight up throw the deep ball, and then we're going to go play defense. And like I'm still disappointed in Ole Miss because to me, watching that game, that was a very beatable Alabama team in that game. And it's one where you could see them getting in a situation if Milroe turns the ball over on multiple occasions, being in trouble just because that style for them now. I don't know, but I do think that is their identity. That was who they should have been all along, is running game, running QB, hit some deep balls, go play defense.
They got to hope that Jalen Hurts has an open date, comes down there and show them some of that Eagle offense and say, look, let's run some of this stuff with this kid instead of trying to run the Bryce Young offense. They ran a quarterback sweep early in the game, kind of like Ole Miss did. I never saw it again. They're inside the 10. They never put him on the edge. Very seldom run the quarterback draw, which Dart scored against them when they're playing man under. So I think this guy is just being stubborn, saying, I'm going to try to run the Alabama offense. And this guy is not a drop back quarterback except when he throws a play action and arches it out there. But I guarantee he gives them the best chance to win, and he's going to be a threat as long as their defense can play like they did last week.
Alabama is a 14.5-point favorite in this game. I'd take the Tide on that. Final game of the week in the SEC, Brent, Missouri, 13.5-point favorites on the road in Nashville against Vanderbilt.
We talked about Vanderbilt last week. I was like, hey, is this the game where they actually don't turn the ball over? And then Kentucky returns gets multiple returns for touchdowns and picks and turnovers and things like. Is this the game that Vanderbilt doesn't turn the ball over and kind of hangs around? I don't know. Swan's putting it as many great throws as he's making. He's also putting it at risk a lot. But Mizzou is one for me that what's interesting about them is twofold in terms of the identity part. One, they know they have a superstar and they are using him to the nth degree. Like Luther Burden is a star. He's the highest graded receiver now in the FBS. He also, what's amazing about it last week, 177 receiving yards. He only went in the pattern 17 times, 17 snaps. And yet he had 177 receiving yards, 12 targets in those 17 snaps that he actually ran out for a route. But the other part with Missouri is their overall run block grade is by far the best in the SEC. Like they're at 84.5, I think, is a team. The next best is I can't remember who the next best was, but number 2 was 72. Georgia's even down there in the mid 60s. Like they have their tackles are really good, run the ball, that identity. They're going to be sneaky, and then I'm very curious. They get through this and then host LSU next week. Big game for them.
So is their rushing yardage just because they've had lost yardage because they don't have a real disparity between their passing and their rushing? And the one guy's doing a good job of leading the team in rushing, but is it because they lose yardage in passing? Is that why they're –
I think yardage, yes, but also, too, it's part of its scheme. And a lot of times I think the outside zone scheme lends itself to where it's a grading. Hey, this guy did his job, this lineman did his job, but maybe the back didn't hit the hole where it was.
They're a passing team. I mean, they throw the ball, and and they got a good field goal kicker, and their defense makes you work. I mean, they got a good scheme. The guy got his background under Muschamp. They run into Alabama, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban defense. So they know what they're doing, and they give you problems. I don't know if the Vanderbilt quarterback's going to be able to play. They say he's been hurt. But Vanderbilt turning the ball over right and left, and they're just not good enough to sustain themselves with that. They've got 2 wins so far. I was thinking early they might get 3 or 4 more, but I don't see it now.
What's amazing, though, with Missouri, I say all these nice things about them. They beat Middle Tennessee, K-State, and then last weekend by a combined 14 points. Yeah. Last 3 home wins by a combined 14 points.
It's Memphis
Memphis, yeah.
But K-State's a good win. But here's the thing: Missouri got a legitimate shot being 5-0. I mean, it
Big time game versus LSU.
Makes AD look good, signing to a new contract.
Well, I'm with you, Brent, that K-State big win. Memphis, that's a game that historically that could be a loss for Missouri, but they're 4-0. And coming into the season, you would say, yes, coach, I know he got the extension, but you had to show me something here. Otherwise, they're going to have to maybe consider moving on from him. And early indications say smart move. Because even in recruiting right now, Missouri's gotten to the NIL game pretty strong too.
Yep.
Well, two teams that have prospered making an offensive coordinator, the guy calling the plays. Texas A&M just looks a lot more functional with Petrino as far as getting the plays in and out, running the ball at the line of scrimmage. They look a lot more efficient. And the same thing with Mizzou with bringing in this Moore guy from Fresno State. So I think I didn't realize that he was Kirby Moore's brother, the brother of the guy that played at Boise State, now the coordinator for the Chargers.
Oh, Kellen Moore's brother. Yeah,
Kellen Moore. Did you know that was his brother?
I did not know that, actually.
I didn't know that. Coach, the last thing I want to ask you about is outside of the SEC, but you're a coach, and I know you know a lot of coaches. Notre Dame, the way it ended against Ohio State, how does that happen? What exactly happened? And how do you stop it from happening again?
Well, I mean, there's certain things have happened to all of us in our career that we're playing a semifinals of the national championship game against Boise State, and one of our safeties didn't go out and cover a slot receiver. There wasn't anybody on him, and the guy hit a big play. There's no reason for that, but, you coach him up. But after a timeout, and they called the timeout, Ohio State didn't have any. And we were watching it here on the Watch Along show on the side because we had a timeout. But you got your team over there and you're going over everybody's assignment and all. But just to have 10 guys out there, just beyond me. I don't know how it happened. But the guy, everybody loves him there. I mean, he's doing a good job recruiting. One thing is pretty obvious. They got some players now. You don't play Ohio State for 59 minutes and 57 seconds that way and stone them like that without some players. So, but they're going into Wallace Wade Stadium this week playing the Blue Devils from Methodist Flats there in Durham, North Carolina. And it's not going to be game day for basketball. It's going to be for football. And it's, Duke's got it humming now. I mean, this guy's going to have there's going to be a lot of people after this Echo guy. I mean, he's doing a heck of a job there, and he's got a great quarterback. The guy's just an outstanding player, a good athlete too.
What's amazing about the 10 players on the field thing? To me, it wasn't even the most egregious decision and part of the end of the game. They had just called a time or just gotten a penalty because the QB threw the ball away because of pressure, and they get a intentional grounding penalty. And then it's 3rd and 19, and you rush 3, and you gave a young QB time to just sit there and be nice and comfortable and push the ball down the field. Literally, I mean, they should have – he was an inch, 6 inches from the touchdown on that play. Like, how do you not speed up his clock on 3rd and 19?
Got to go after him a little bit. I mean, I can see
that was egregious.
Bring some people in there, but then on offense at the end of the game, I mean, they throw a screen pass which should be safe, but throw it in the dirt so it stops the clock. Otherwise, you're going to run some more time off. But
how much time do you guys, as a coach, Coach Donnan, how much time do you guys spend in an off season going through game scenarios, like game and clock management scenarios?
An inordinate amount of time. I mean, we talk about it all the time here. You know what won for you, you know what got you beat, and you work on situations and critique yourself. And you also look at other teams, how they handle it. I know one thing that's big around the country now is the analytics that all these pro and college teams subscribe to see what other teams do in certain situations. Like last week, I saw where Nick Saban said he went for 2 there because they decided at their meeting in the morning on Saturday that when they would go for 2. I thought you go for 1 there and, make them – put yourself up 2 scores. They're up 8 so you should get one. You're up 2 scores, but he went for 2, and that was his reason. But so you get a chance to compare that around the country. Why do people do this? And we saw the same thing with the Green Bay Packers going for 2 because they felt like they had a better chance of winning the game in regulation if they made the 2 than winning the game in overtime.
The time, the clock management skill, and the reason I even asked that question is because what happened 90 minutes up the road from us in Clemson, South Carolina, because it was a struggle for them as well.
Yeah, those were 2 really good cases in the ACC of, I guess you call Notre Dame ACC. They play enough, but very poor management and counting on a kicker coming off injured reserve or coming off of whatever he was. I mean,
almost going to a job in New York. That's what he was doing.
Well, we're excited to have a month of the season behind us, and I don't know what's going to happen in college football this year. It's the least predictable it's been in quite a while to me, so I'm excited to do this journey with you guys for the rest of this season around the league from UGAsports.com with Jim Donnan and Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. Support Breda Pest Management and Connor Grading and Landscaping. We'll see you here next week for